What's up, everybody? Dan Tortora here with you, hanging out and here for a very special broadcast, an extension of Wake Up Call, which is called Reiss's Pieces. And it's with Tammi Reiss of the University of Rhode Island Rams women's basketball. She's the head coach of the team, been there for a couple seasons. And she, before that, was at Syracuse University with the women's basketball program as an assistant coach, and obviously played for Virginia and had a tremendous run there. So Tammi's done so much and played in the WNBA. So one of the top picks in the WNBA as well. So a lot of great stuff coming from Tammi Reiss, who will be joining us momentarily here on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora's extension, which is called Reiss's Pieces with Tammi Reiss, that we do every other Monday. So essentially twice a month, sometimes 3 times a month, depending on how the month falls and whatnot. But Tammi and I have the opportunity to be able to bring you a very special extension of Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora called Reiss's Pieces. And when we get to do this, it allows us an opportunity to speak on basketball, to speak on coaching, to speak on a lot of different things, and obviously life and so much. So with that being said, we're going to bring Tammi on the air now so we can talk with Miss Reiss and see how she's doing today as we get set to bring her on air. There she is. Hello, Miss Reiss. How are you?
Hey, what's going on?
Not too much. How's life?
Life is good. Life is busy. Mondays are always extremely busy. You get the whole weekend to try to handle everything on Monday morning. And we started workouts today, so it was really busy.
Yeah, and that's the thing. I just spoke with Adrian Autry about this, where, basketball for a coach never stops. And, I mean, really, for coaching in any profession, it doesn't stop. So it's like, yeah, okay, well, in the tournament, not in the tournament, doing this, doing that, and then workouts are already back up and going again. So, the life of a coach never sleeps, so to speak.
No, never stops. When you're not with your team, you're recruiting to bring new kids to your team. So, or you're always putting, handling issues with kids that are currently on your team. So it is a 24/7 job that people don't really see. The average fan, they only see the end product on the court. They really don't see what goes on behind the scenes. So it is definitely a 24/7 job.
That coming from Tammi Reiss. Reiss's Pieces here for you every other Monday at 11:30 a.m. Eastern Time, as every other Monday, an extension of Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora. Tammi, I have a lot of different stuff on my mind, but one of the things with coaching, the transfer portal, it's such a unique thing now. The fact that it even exists, on top of the fact that the restrictions of traveling within conference, on top of people trying to get waivers so they can play right away. There's all these different things, and then the free year that athletes are getting now. As a coach, how do you navigate it's such a unique thing now? I don't even really know what to put on it, other than the fact that it's a very unique bird, so to speak.
Well, it was its own bear when it was just the transfer portal, right? You had to sit. Everyone knew you couldn't transfer. A lot of conferences, they all have their own rules.
Yeah.
So you couldn't transfer within conference. Some schools you'd have to sit 2 years. It's what the ACC used to be. Then some schools it was 1 year, and then other schools it was no year. So every conference was different, right? Yeah. So you knew that rule, so you could deal with it. It was very easy. So, for example, the ACC, you never had to worry about really kids even thinking about transferring in conference. If you have to sit 2 years, there's no way. Even 1 year was difficult, but 2 years, nah, we're not dealing with that. So now add the transfer portal when there are no limitations, and so now you got to worry about recruiting your own kids within conference. Like after a game, we're going through that handshake line, and you got other coaches, it's what you're doing. So that's one thing. Then you're dealing with, okay, everyone's got a free year. So let's throw this new variable in. And now you got a war room in your office going, okay, here's my scholarship numbers. here's who's coming back, here's who's exploring new options. It's an ever-changing amoeba, right? And then you add on top of that the fact that the NCAA may just open it up and say, all of you can transfer without, you got a one-time transfer exception rule. You don't have to sit, period. And we're waiting for that bomb to drop. Mix it all up, and it makes for an unbelievably difficult navigation in this off season. You got to get a hold of only your numbers of your team, but who's coming back, who's taking their fifth year, who's in the transfer portal, who's you signed for the 21 class. I mean, it is a lot to deal with. And I feel like a GM. I really don't feel like a college coach. I feel like a GM trying to navigate my war room and my board and kind of trying to get a grasp of, what's going on. And so that is a daily thing. I mean, there are some people that live on the portal and they hit refresh every 10 minutes. Who's hitting the portal? And it is a lot. It is a whole new way to recruit, and couple that with the COVID and the extra scholarship year, it has made for free agency in the NCAA.
Yeah, and it's a great way to put it, free agency in the NCAA. And I mean, it's so hard to recruit. And when you get someone to verbally commit, some people's word is their bond. Like Floyd Little would always say, your word's the most valuable thing you own. If you don't have it, you got nothing. And other people, their word doesn't mean anything. I mean, they commit and decommit 9 times before they choose a school. So when you go through the recruiting process and they tell you they like you and they talk to you all the time, and then you get the verbal yes, and then you get the signature, beyond all of that stress and craziness, now you have to, every single year, Tammi, as a head coach in college athletics, you have to recruit the people that you recruited after you recruited them. Like, you're recruiting every single year the players you have, plus you're recruiting the new players. So you're dealing with the, is it their word? Does it mean anything? Am I getting a signature? Will they back out of it? Jumping to, I have all of that, and now I have to, even when I have their signature and they're on campus, I have to recruit them again. What does that do to a coach that already has a ton on their plate?
Obviously it's a lot. Communication is key. Number one is I sit down with our coaching staff and I really analyze, number one, our recruiting process. Sorry, I got 50 million people again, transfer portal, again, recruiting, texting my phone as we're speaking. So we really have to get a handle on, listen, what kind of kid are we going after? Like, you can't, no longer is it bright and shiny that you can just lie to kids and you can just tell them, yo, you're going to start and you're going to play 36 minutes and you're going to do this. And the days of promising guarantees, all these things, they're, for women anyway, men are a whole different bear. They're over, because kids don't want to hear I'm not starting. Kids don't want to hear I got to compete for anything. And then when they get there, if what you said to those kids doesn't transpire, guess what? They're gone. Any little thing they don't like, instead of battling through it or maybe having great conversations about your future, they got their handlers, they got the people in the background telling them, it's so easy, just leave, go there. And so it's just so easy to transfer right now that I've had to rethink, and really I haven't, because I do things a certain way with recruiting. Yeah. And, there's enough challenges as the year goes on with a kid's happiness, COVID, academics, wanting playing time, and they may leave for a number of reasons. But start thinking about, how am I going to retain my kids from day one? What are they looking for? What do they have to have? And you may not, carrying 15 kids, you can't make them all happy. Obviously, there's going to be a lot of transferring going on, because you cannot keep 15 kids happy. It's hard enough to play 10 kids, 11. How are you going to, so putting your rosters together, number one, and then keeping your core together. I think I have an understanding that in order to build, you got to have a core kids stay in your program and build on that, for women anyway. You know, I can't imagine, you know, you look now at Calipari, how hard was it for one and dones? Imagine how hard it is. The other coaches are just dealing with it now. A lot of them never had to deal with one and dones, which now a one and done means not only do I go pro, but I'm going to another school. So I'm a one and done in your program. Bye-bye. Calipari does it every year. You know how hard that is to maintain the level of excellence with losing your whole roster every year, or your mainstays, your best players. And so the landscape has changed a great deal. And, you know, it's really having a game plan from day one about, you're not going to keep 15 kids happy. It's not going to happen. But how do I keep my core from day one, that we have this understanding? And I recruit a certain type of kid. Now I know there's going to be transfers because kids want to play. I've had 3 transfers this year, that kids that didn't get enough time. And I understand that. We have great communication. Look, coach, they come to me, I want to play. And I know I may not play here with what's coming in and what's here. Yeah. And I need to play. It's my happiness. And I appreciate that. So in return, we got to find them the right home, the right fit. And that's a mutual decision. But, you know, not every kid's going to be happy. But in the end, as a coach, I got to keep my core. If I'm going to continue to win and be successful, I gotta keep my core players happy. And I go after specific kids. They here at Rhode Island, they aren't looking always for the brightest and the best. They have a certain things that are important to them that a big BCS school may not be able to provide them, so they can't steal them away from me. Relationships, player development. And I pride myself on certain things. Yeah. We go after certain kids that want the same thing. So ain't no other coach. They can't beat me out with this kid when it comes to relationships. I'm sorry. You're not going to talk to this kid every day like I do. You're not going to take care of him. You're not going to get up at 2 a.m. Not my assistants, all of us. And so that's the kind of kid I go after. And I understand they need us as much as we need them. And we build that relationship, and I can keep them here. So, you know, that's my philosophy for what I do for my program. And every program's different. Men and women are different. Yeah. And it is just so hard to navigate. You really do. You got to get ahead of it, and you got to have a plan nowadays for the ever-changing times, rules, and ever-changing student athletes. And it is changing. And so, you know, my biggest thing is having a didactic plan on how you're going to go about this, from your recruiting, and then your re-recruiting of your players, their happiness, what you're trying to attain, and have a good grasp on it, your whole staff, because that's how you'll retain players. Retention is great. You got to be able to retain great players. You cannot lose them.
Yeah, you know, and I think, you know, here in Reiss's Pieces with Tammi, an extension of Wake Up Call here with Tammi Reiss, and of course myself, Dan Tortora. Everything that you said, I mean, it makes perfect sense, and I love that, and I love, you know, it kind of leads me into this question, and I already kind of know the answer because I know how you and I are as people. But in a world with the transfer portal, in a world where not every kid, but some kids don't want to work for it, right? Or everybody's been given a trophy, so they don't know the difference, or they feel entitled. With entitlement, with not wanting to work, with not wanting competition, with the transfer portal, with name, image, and likeness coming up, with college athletics looking like professional sports, can you be a successful coach that relies on being genuine, kind, compassionate, telling the truth, and building relationships? Can you still be successful that way?
Well, I think that, yes, that's the only way you're going to be successful, when the transfer of power has left you. And so, yeah, you know, the student athlete right now, the power is shifting. They really do. They've got a lot of power, and they're getting it with every ruling, right? And couple that with the ever-changing, every decade, every generation has changed now. It's no longer the right thing to do is stick it out. A little bit of adversity is good. Back in my day, you never transferred unless it was imperative. And when I mean imperative, I mean dire situations. Everyone goes through a rough time with playing time, with adjustments, with friendships, with relationships, and you battled through it, and you didn't see the massive amount of transfers, right? But again, every decade it changes a little bit. And so how we raise our children, we believe now that mental health, all these things, every kid should be patted on the back for trying. It's not always coming in first that's important. And we've desensitized competition and winning. I was brought up, if you didn't come in first, you came in last. There was no, for me, there was no second. It's what made me a competitor. It's why it's what most kids were about back then. And every generation, it's changed a little bit. And I'm not saying right or wrong. I'm just saying the differences. And so with all that power that they now have, the little bit of adversity, they can go. They can go. And I have the power, and I'm not getting punished anymore. So not only do I not have to do my due diligence during the recruiting process, and I tell this to kids, if you and your parents aren't asking every school, every question, and you've checked every box, and you've built those relationships, and you've got every answer that you can hold the coaching staff accountable to, you're not doing your job. But they don't have to anymore. I get a free pass. I don't have to. So don't ask me to do all that. If I don't like it, I'll just leave. And so they have the power, and we've enabled them to be able to go so easily, to not have to fight through adversity. So I'm just telling you, if you're a coach that lies, cheats, and steals, and mistreats your kids, well, you really might be in trouble. And as you can see in the landscape, the more and more stories you see about kids accusing coaches of doing A, B, and C, and I'm not saying they're always the right stories, but we're no longer in that. So you can't be this coach that just doesn't have good communicative skills, doesn't relationship well with kids. You're giving them more power. They're really going to leave. And so it's why I think if you're able to do those great things, you can hold on to certain kids. You built that relationship. They believe in you. I'm not saying they won't take their 5th year and explore other options, because they've given you 4 years. Now they may want to try something new. You never know. But for 4 years, you build that relationship, and that kid has a great experience. They won't jump ship just to try something. I want to fly private jet suddenly. I need more Nike gear. This isn't enough. I want some shiny stuff. No. What they valued with you day one, the end, they will still value. And so I look at programs in my profession in women's basketball, like, for example, Georgia Tech. Their 5th years are all coming back. All of them. They didn't win conference. They didn't. They're all coming back to Georgia Tech. Why? Because Nell's an incredible coach, number one, but she's a better woman. Those kids love her. Maryland just announced all 5 of their seniors are coming back. All 5. Not one is leaving. Good job, Brenda and staff. I applaud you. You know how hard that is? And so the right culture, the right environment, you should be able to hold on to your mainstays. And you got to create that. You got to work now as a coach. I can't just go, I don't care, leave then. I'll go get someone new. You can't do that anymore. No, you got to work at it. What's wrong? How can we work through this? What am I not giving? Hold me accountable. Did I promise you something you're not getting? No, coach. And you got to be able to have those conversations. You got to be a great relationship coach. That's the new norm. It is. It is. And I believe in that. I'll never sacrifice that. I think if you give that up, you're really in trouble. Everyone will leave. You got to work at that. And it's every day. Every day.
And I think the beauty of it is I think the silver lining of all this, when people say glass half empty, I see glass half full. I think the silver lining is you weed out the BS. You and I, who have always functioned on building relationships, and other people that are functioning on lying, cheating, stealing, just getting the story, just getting the kid, just getting the this, getting that. Like, we're functioning business as usual, because when you do right by, when you tell people the truth and you focus on building relationships, nothing can, and I say that in business all the time, I can make a company money by working with me. I could do this, I could do that. I could put this story out. I could screw this person over to try and get famous, but it's all temporary. When you build a relationship, and I went through the pandemic, the companies that believed in me before the pandemic went through hell and continued to support me as we supported each other during a pandemic. During a crisis, they said, I got to take care of Dan because of our relationship. And I said, and I got to do right by you guys because of our relationship. And I had multiple conversations with people saying, I will never forget what you did for me during all of this. Like, I will never, ever forget this. So I think the silver lining of all this is we weed out the BS. And the cool thing about it, Tammi, is you and I focused on relationships our whole lives. So we don't have to worry and look over our shoulders and wonder what's going on. Life isn't perfect. Stuff will happen. But because of how you and I function, we're not trying to catch up with the times. We're just doing what we normally do.
Yeah, and I've talked about this. We've talked about this before, is the business of coaching now. It's a business now. Don't get it twisted. The NCAA is a business. And so it's leaning that way. But, you really, really have to be genuine in the fact that for a coach now, it's philosophy and psychology, much more so than X and O's. It is human behavior that you have to get a grasp on. And if you're not if you're not genuine, you're not real, and you genuinely don't care about people, you'll get spit up now and eaten alive in this business, because the kids, they're not having it any other way. And it's a give and take. We always ask the kids, you got to do this, and this. And then we never hold ourselves accountable. And the more and more I study philosophy and psychology of just how humans are, man, we've got to change too. It ain't old school anymore. It's not the 70s, 80s, and early 90s. It's not. And so I believe that. And I voiced it early this year. I said, you better have a grasp on human behavior of what these kids are going to go through this year, on and off the court, all the different things, the changing landscape. And it's the truth. Coaching has become psychology and philosophy, and the study of humans and human behavior, and how you can adapt and become better at that to be able to coach. It's like a teacher. Same thing. You're a teacher. They make you do all this refresher courses and studies and everything, how to reach your students and how to become a better teacher. Coaching is no different. We teach and we mentor. And we think, and just because it's a business, if you want to, I truly believe, if you want to be successful and you're in it to impact lives and really do what you want to do, and you want to be successful, you better get a grasp on psychology and philosophy. And I believe that. I've always believed it, because my coaches always had a great grasp on it. They could always reach me, and it was a connection. I couldn't play for someone I didn't have a connection with. I couldn't play or couldn't be involved with someone who I didn't think genuinely cared about me and showed it on a daily basis. And so if I thought that way as a player, and I was tough as nails, what are these kids nowadays? What are they thinking? What do they need from me? And that's how I think. I always think too from the student athlete perspective. And some people say that's bad because I sympathize a lot, but I think it's really good. And I think it's what has enabled me to be a little bit successful early on, thus far, on relationshiping and reaching kids, is that thought process.
Yeah, and I think it's absolutely incredible, because it is true. I mean, it's how we treat people, and people want to work with people that they enjoy being around, and they want to do things with people that they enjoy being around. Relationships. We wouldn't be on this call right now side by side if you and I weren't relationship builders and weren't genuine, honest people who care, because neither one of us would give the other person the time of day. So it's just reality. Before I let you go, because I know you have so much going on today, I wanted to very quickly go to the Final Four for the women's side because it was incredible. The games were insane. And I legitimately had to, and I'm not even kidding about this a little bit, I had to fight back tears for South Carolina, who's never been my team. No disrespect to them, but like I legitimately was heartbroken as a person who grew up playing basketball my whole life, and I just appreciate the sport. And I just have tremendous respect for athletes, student athletes. Watching that game and seeing two close range shots roll off the rim and the immediate tears, like, bring me into Stanford, South Carolina, because that one broke my heart. And then UConn, Arizona. And the fact that this little old McDonald, this little short McDonald, wonderful woman, I mean, she just crept into my life and made herself a little spot. So what can you say about the Final Four? And the fact that the national championship ended with 1 point.
Well, again, it was kudos to the women. And the past 3 or 4 years, the Final Fours have been Enrique Umbawa, they've just been amazing on game-winning shots, just like the most competitive, amazing games you've ever wanted to see. And so I'll start with South Carolina and Stanford. It's funny. Dawn Staley, who coaches South Carolina, she was my backcourt mate at Virginia. 4 years. We're good friends. We were texting before the game. I'm wishing her good luck, everything. Little quick story, history, very eerie, very weird. Stanford's last national championship was won in 1992. They beat us in the semifinal to go to the championship game and win it. The score was identical to what they beat Dawn the other night, 66-65. 1 point on a game-winning shot that they lost at the buzzer. Identical game. And guess who took the game-winning shot and lost at the buzzer? Was Dawn Staley. And it just so happened this game again took place on my birthday. So it was a very ominous, it was eerie. So many things aligned that were just, that's just crazy, number one. Yeah. And Dawn spoke of, because she went through it, what Aaliyah Boston, that last miss, the shock, Dawn lived that. Because she did the same exact thing. Hers was a little bit farther out. And Dawn said, listen, it's going to take Aaliyah a long, long time to get over that, as it did Dawn. She went through the same thing. But eventually she will. And it won't define her, but it will make her a much better player. And so she spoke the truth. And it was devastating. It was devastating for me to watch because I have a close connection with Dawn. And I was rooting for her, obviously, for selfish reasons. But unbelievable game, right down to the last wire. Then the game before that, the UConn game, or after that, the UConn game, Ari McDonald is just, she stole everyone's heart, and everyone started rooting for her. Everyone out west knew it already. This kid's special. Like, we don't get to watch the Pac-12 as much, but I do. So I knew everything there was to know about the Pac-12, and this kid's a beast, all 5'6" of her. You don't want any part of this kid. And it was so nice to finally see the rest of the world got to witness her greatness. And you felt so, not just her, but the whole team and the coach. And so it made for a great story, and it just was an amazing, amazing feat to beat a UConn team that had, the mystique and that had been there. Now, it was a very young UConn team, but, to get over that and to believe, that's the biggest thing at this time of the year. The momentum was on Arizona's side. I'm going to be honest with you. I didn't think Arizona could win. I didn't think they wouldn't compete. I didn't think they wouldn't be there, but I never in a million years, if I was a betting person, which I'm not, because it's an NCAA year, I wouldn't have put my money on Arizona, and I didn't. And they proved me wrong. And kudos to them. I was cheering for them at the end. Like, it was magnificent to see. And then the final, It wasn't the prettiest game. It wasn't a great game of execution because it wasn't. It was actually a defensive battle, juggernaut. Very bad execution at the end of the game. A lot of turnovers, a lot of miscues, a lot of not great shots, right? But it was competitive, and those kids laid it all out on the line. And again, it was a fun game, exciting game to watch because it was so close. And my hats were off to both teams because they left it all on the floor. And I think the national championship, I picked Stanford to win it. Of the two, I still was not 100%. It was 50-50 for me because I thought momentum and the belief that you could win could carry Arizona to a victory. And it's hard to beat a team three times. It just is. And I was just happy that we had a competitive game at the end. And my hat's off to both of them. But I really applaud Arizona for proving a million naysayers wrong, and just applauded their effort. It was beautiful to see an underdog just go through the tournament and just captivate and capture everyone's hearts. And they had a lot of people, man, they became Mary McDonald fans.
Last piece, and it comes off of that in Reiss's pieces, a million naysayers wrong. Arizona's head coach had words for the naysayers. I'm not going to load the question by my thoughts on it. I'll talk about it after, but you're a coach in this game. She wanted people that didn't believe in her to know, guess what? We're here. She's very emotional about it. Didn't put anything, wore it on her sleeve, didn't hide any of it. Agree or disagree that a coach should be able to say, hey, we're here, and this is how I feel.
You know, number one, if you know Adia, and I do, I played against her in college, WNBA. I've coached against her. She's a mother. She's a great leader of women. Now, to say, you know, you may raise your children differently, but in the competitive sports environment, when you're fired up and you're emotional, and that's how you talk sometimes with your team, and that's how your team talks to you. Don't get it twisted. Those kids may use that language as well when they get fired up. And that was their moment, whether it was in the locker room after the game, where you don't know if there's cameras now, cell phones. You cannot deprive individuals of she didn't go to the camera and do it for the whole world to see. That was their huddle. That was their time. That was their raw emotion. Men do it all the time. In fact, men do it on camera. And that was their private. No one told you to put the camera in their huddle. That was raw. And sometimes in sport, you will get language. And that's how they felt. And that's how they motivated each other. I know I may say some choice words when I'm in my locker room with my team, and let them know and get them fired up. And that's raw. And men do it all the time. So, you know, again, well, my daughters were watching, and then have a conversation with your daughters and explain sometimes. You know, I don't feel that there was a need for her to apologize. And that's raw emotion. That's how we get fired up too as women, as competitors. You'll see players on the court. They may say a word under their breath, but the camera caught their mouth. It's not their fault. It's how they feel right then and there. Sometimes you can't control it. And you shouldn't. Just like I love it when they cry, that raw emotion. They're not asking you to put the camera on and keep it on them for 10 minutes while things are running down their nose and they're being consoled, and that's your choice. And as viewers, you know, you can turn it off or you can have a conversation. But there was no need, in my opinion, for her to apologize with her team in that moment. And they know how they speak to each other. They know what verbiage they use to and fro. And it was a place of raw emotion. It wasn't like that's how she coaches. It's not by any means. She's the most mothering type you'd ever want to see in a million years. And, you know, I had no problem with it. In fact, a lot of times that's how I am. I'm fiery. And swearing as to an uplifting to swearing at someone, it's a completely different realm. And I'm not one, I don't have a clean mouth when I'm excited. It's my one weakness that I try to work on every day is cleaning my language up. And I try my hardest, but you know, I'm not perfect with it. And so, you know, I don't know what I probably would have been in that huddle, and I've said things. Well, I think my team's around me and we're getting pumped up, and the camera may catch that. That's not my fault. My huddle's closed. I didn't ask the camera to come in there. Don't do that. And then, you know, then you become attacked. And I don't believe in that. I don't. I believe that was their moment. It was a special moment for them. Let it be. Let them experience that the way they want to.
Not everything has to be on camera. I've been reading Boeheim's lips since I was like 4 years old. I know what he says. I know what he says every time. So,
Dan, the masks this year saved a whole lot of people. I'm telling you what. And you could see it. The mask came down, and as soon as all of a sudden the mask came right back up. It was funny. It saved a lot of technical fouls this year. I'll tell you what, because everyone wants to question officiating right now. You know, and look, they're human beings. They're not going to get every call perfect. Just like as coaches, we don't. Hey, fans, I don't think you realize how difficult officiating is. It's just like you bash us coaches or the players. Officials are no different. Color commentators are no different. Every job, you're going to make mistakes here and there. And you only hope you try your best. You think officials try to blow calls? Like, my God. And the first thing, we go right on Twitter. That's why I hate it. Everyone, every little thing, you get to just attack people. Hey, I'm going to come to your job. We're going to see how good a lawyer you are today. Oh, my God, he blew this. You see his closing argument? Oh, my God, it was ridiculous. He said, no. And so, you know, sometimes you got to cut people a break. They will learn. Believe you me. There's penalties. They've got to watch film. They've got to get better. They try to get better as well, just like us coaches do and just like the players do. So, you know, it is just astronomical how many people can get attacked and on Twitter in like a 10-second segment.
Yeah, you bring up a perfect point. I mean, I put 3 stories out, and I got attacked for putting free information on my free site that you don't have to click on. And it was all information that people have been asking about. And then today on my show, it's corroborated, and I'm like, okay, no one's going to apologize. But I said exactly what you said, and this is why I love you, Tammi. It really is. I said what you said. That I was like, I'm going to come to your job. I'm going to come to your cubicle. I'm going to shake your cubicle the whole time. I'm going to hit it, bang on it. I'm going to dump coffee on your desk. I'm going to tell you that your wife should leave you, that your kids hate you, that you're not a good father, that you're not good at what you do, that you can't do anything with your job. You are so unsuccessful. Your parents are ashamed of you. I'm going to do that for 8 hours straight. And I'm going to do it every day. Tell me how you're going to live. Because none of these people can live like that. If I said, hey, what's up? Threw coffee in your face, tripped you on the way, you know, came into the bathroom, knocked the stall when you're sitting on the toilet. How are you going to live? Because you're sitting on the toilet when you're writing the tweets to me and to you and everybody. So why not just mess up your Twitter time? But it's insane to me that everybody's got an opinion. But just like life has always been, it's just now on blast. There's people like you and I that are willing to live, and there's people that are willing to commentate on life. And I welcome those people to give their thoughts, but I'm too busy living to respond. And as Drake said it so very well, he said, my failure to respond means you don't exist. So you can keep writing, but life existed before Twitter, and it will exist well after Twitter.
And I feel like the exact same way is, you know, people have freedom of speech, and you can criticize and you can do all that, but you will not get my time, and you will not dirty my mind with, you know, walking through my mind with your dirty feet. The negativity, it's just not going to happen. And you can do what you want to do. And I really don't care if anyone attacks me or criticizes me, or they don't pay my bills, they don't put food over my head, they don't sleep in my bed. I could care less. I don't love you. And obviously you don't love me, but I will defend with ferocity my kids. When you attack the student athlete and say horrible things, and you're a grown person, you should be better than that. You should be better than that. You should have compassion. You should have empathy. These are student athletes that are playing a sport because they love it. This isn't a pro athlete that's getting paid, you know, $50 million a season for your entertainment. This is a amateur athlete that, you know, you have no idea what your words can do to kids. And they'd understand if they dealt with some of the problems I deal with mental illness, and I want to take their tweets and I want to see what you drove this kid to do. You did. Here are your tweets. The horrible things you said about this student athlete. And this is what ended up. And if they're a good person, it would bother them. If not, that's why I try to teach my kids the same thing is, you know, you'll have to ignore the criticism because it's hateful. And we have to, as human beings, have a little bit more compassion, empathy, and realizing what you're doing. It's not healthy for anyone, and it's not good. And, you know, we're grown adults and we can deal with that. And even so, it kind of eats at you a little bit like, wow, you know, that's what someone thinks of me. Now imagine a 17-year-old having that happen to him. So I got no place for that. And we'll have an issue if that comes to blows, and men deal with it much more so than women. My God, I read some of these damn blogs and what they say about kids, and they should be blocked. They shouldn't be allowed to post anymore. And if we really care about the mental health of these athletes, they shouldn't. They're fans and they're writing that about kids. There's no place for that. They should be banned from being able to be a member or a fan of your team. And so, yeah, you and I, we again, we're caring individuals who understand the landscape and what's important and what's not. Really, the game of basketball plays that much importance in your life? Damn, that you can sit on Twitter and you can sit on blogs and just attack people 8 hours a day, every day. Well, then good for you. But ain't nobody listening anymore. And the ones you're attacking, they definitely ain't listening.
And if you're doing that 8 hours a day, you ain't working a job. So like I'm too busy working over here. So, and I'll finish with a statement by Drake: is negative thoughts never enter my inner matrix. So let's say that. Tammi, thank you for everything as always. Reiss's Pieces with Tammi Reiss, myself, Dan Tortora, an extension of Wake Up Call. And I want to do this for women's basketball. I want to do this for women's athletics. I want to do this for killing it and ending it in such a close way. And I want to do this for you because, with all due respect to you, they don't make them like you always, Miss Reiss. And I will go to bat for you every single day. So if anybody wants to feel the power of God plus Tammi and Dan, we here. So, but I appreciate you as always, and I have nothing but respect for you, and I am so very proud to call you a friend. So I applaud your hard work, and you are an echo. When I feel like I'm alone, you're an echo to a lot of the things I go through and a lot of the things that I believe in and I think. And sometimes that echo, when it gets reverbed back to you, is all you need. So thank you for that.
And same to you, my brother. I applaud you. And again, I love surrounding myself with people that are positive, that love life, that try to help other people. I think the world needs more of that. And here's tonight to the men's tournament and putting a final culmination on what I think is going to be an absolutely amazing game. Two great teams that we've been waiting for this matchup. And I wish both coaches, both programs, the kids, the young men, and all their fan base, just an unbelievable game tonight. And I wish them both the best of luck. And I'll give you my prediction. I'm wavering again. It's 50. I have no idea, but I want to see an undefeated men's team, Gonzaga. It's happened on the women's side multiple times, but to do it on the men's side would be truly special. And I think it would be more devastating if you can understand what it feels like to lose in the national championship game, which most people can't. I can. I know how devastating it is because I've been there. But to go undefeated and be that close to making history, I think it would devastate those men at Gonzaga. But doesn't take anything away from Baylor. But I'm rooting for Gonzaga. I'm rooting for a great game. But my prediction, Gonzaga.
Yeah, and that's the thing with the Zags is like, you go undefeated and you lose the last game, it's like you never won any games that season. So my bracket still has them babies right here, 81-77. So I'm going to keep it where I'm going to keep it because I called that last shot. I said 3-point leaner by half court leaning toward the basket. I called it before it happened. Zags, get it done. The life of a big man lives on. And Mark Few, you are on my short list of people I still have to talk to. Love you and respect you from afar. I'm going with the Zags. No offense to Baylor, but two great teams last year didn't get to do this in the top 5. Now they get to do it. I feel like it's just like the world correcting itself. So this is a fantastic game. Awesome moment. All praise to God that we get to watch this tonight. I will be watching it with my popcorn ready. But with all due respect, Baylor Bears, I have waited over a decade to see Gonzaga do it. My mother cheers for them all the time. And I want my national championship Gonzaga gear. So going with the Zags. I have to. Bulldogs all day. So I can't help it. With that being said, Tammi, Reiss, myself, Dan Tortora, Miss Reiss, I'll talk with you soon. And my best to you as always. Take care with everything.
Happy Monday.
Take care. And happy belated.
Thank you, Dan.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Talk soon.